Want to know how to reclaim your self-belief after life has kind of slapped you around a little bit? Well, the great news is in this video, I'm going to give you my favorite transformation tip to help you reclaim your self-confidence and get back up after you've been knocked down a couple of times so that you can do more of the things that make you happy. If you are new to my channel, my name is Belle Lockerbie. I am a speaker, an author, and a change professional, and I am on a mission to help more women who are either stepping up in business and life or starting over to be brave and courageous too. If you want to help me reach them, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button below. It's free and that will help me reach more people with this amazing tip. So let's dig into a little bit of a story about how I found myself looking like this. Now, back in 2015, I was looking good on paper, as my friend Annie would say. My business was actually generating multiple six figures. I was working school hours so I could do life how I wanted, and I was helping women launch and grow their businesses. But behind the scenes, at that point in time, before I met my now amazing husband, my life was not so great. So maybe you can relate to putting on that brave front when internally you just want to curl up and cry. If you can, just type the word relatable below so that I see you and you know that you are seen. Oh gosh, I think back to that day. I had actually forgotten that I was of value, that I just wasn't the cost for getting things done and for helping, do all the things with the kids and the business and everything. When I found myself as a single mum, I actually had just bought a house. The bank believed in my business enough for me to buy my own house as a single parent with two little kids. But I caught my reflection in the mirror and I was kind of shocked, which kind of goes to show I don't know how much I had actually even bothered looking at myself. I don't think I wanted to anymore at that point. And I kind of broke my own heart. So I remember looking at this shell of a person staring back at me and thinking, like, where did I go? Where did that person who had, gone through lots of trauma and always came out triumphant, where did they go? And I couldn't figure it out, but I really had forgotten to love on me as much as I was loving on everything else. And we do have a tendency sometimes to put other people's definitions of success above our own, or definitions of happiness. And sometimes they don't fit our life anymore, and we become the cost instead of the value. People say that the eyes are supposed to be the window to the soul. And all I saw when I looked at myself was someone who looked crushed, exhausted, and basically a shadow of this former sparkly self. So I did what any person would do, and I took a selfie. But it was one of those selfies that I took because I wanted to remember that day. I wanted to remember how bad things had gotten in terms of where I'd allowed myself to get to. Like I really wasn't recognizable anymore. I was at a point where I loved absolutely nothing that I saw in the mirror. I saw nothing that I liked about the person who looked back at me. I saw an unlovable, unworthy person who was great at their job, but just in terms of how I looked and how I was living in life, I just nothing. So I made a commitment that day, probably one of the most awkward commitments I have ever made, to start changing my life and to start rediscovering me. I committed to being kind to me, and I committed to basically loving me back to life. Now it can still sound a little bit weird. I still find it weird to say out loud, but that's what I committed to do. I committed to, as uncomfortable as it felt, to look in the mirror every day and be kind. And that's my absolute 100% favorite transformation tool of all time, is the power of words, power of kindness. I probably talk about it so much that my husband's like, oh, here we go again. But I do believe in the power of kind words. And sometimes my friends, if they are having it, if they're really kind of like dissing themselves, they'll actually hear me say, like, don't speak about my friend that way. And they kind of go, oh, like, I didn't realize I was speaking so badly about myself. But here's why it's such a great transformational tool. You see, our brains are actually neuroplastic, which means that they can relearn new behaviors and new belief patterns. And I really do believe that we receive what we believe. So if you believe you're rubbish, you will probably receive rubbish, but you can actually change it. And yes, it does take time. It's not like a, snap your fingers, did it again. It's not like a snap your fingers and hey presto, life is amazing. It takes time. So it's around being patient and being consistent with yourself. But here's what I learned through that awkward season and through that pain that I went through. The frequency of our faith in being kind to ourselves will always defeat the foundation of a fear, right? So what I mean by that is the frequency. I'm not talking about being high vibe or anything like that, although that's great too. I'm talking about the consistency of your commitment to creating this change. So for me, that meant getting up every day, looking in the mirror at someone I saw as unlovable and looking myself in the eyes and saying, I have hair and I'm grateful, because that was my starting point. That was my absolute starting point, was to go, I have hair and I'm grateful. I have eyes and I'm grateful. I have a smile and I'm grateful. And I would slowly work down everything that I saw in the mirror. When I got to things that I was not comfortable with as yet, I would focus more on the acceptance, because I do think sometimes when people are like, you should love all of you, which it's great if you can, it can also be unrealistic. And then you can end up feeling like you're failing at, building yourself up. So it became more of an acceptance part. Like, I accept this is how things look. I'm not ready yet. And that was okay. So that was okay for me. So be kind to yourself through this process as you look at the power of kind words. So I accept this is how things are was a big thing, because I wasn't ready for the gratitude of the things I found hard to accept. And perhaps you find it easy to say kind things to others or to pray for others. And perhaps you're like me and, you find it challenging to say kind things about yourself. I certainly did, to speak kind words over myself. So that's why that frequency, that commitment to doing something daily, like the kind words daily, and I'm going to give you a couple of ways that you can put this into practice at the end of this video, and you can do it simply and easily for like no money at all, or maybe a couple of bucks if you want to buy one thing. But it makes a change, and over time. So I get that there's a bit of a time lapse between this photo and this photo, but this is what the sequence looked like over time. So within probably 3 to 4 months, the light came back on, the shine started to come back again. I had started to love me back to life, which was a really nice thing to do. The time is where like the hair and everything changes, but just in terms of like finding my zing again, it took a couple of months, but it was that consistent daily action of being kind and speaking kind words to myself. So things like, I am abundant, I am worthy, which is a big one. And I am is one of those powerful words because it's declaring it. It's not associated with struggle like, oh, I'm trying to be worthy, I'm trying to do this, like the I am. So really focusing on the words that you're choosing are so incredibly important. And really understanding that it starts to shift things. Give you a couple of ways that you can start to reclaim your self-belief. So number one is you do receive what you believe. So start with small gratitudes about yourself. I'll link another video below if you want to remember the good things about you. That can be really helpful. So watch out for that one too. Number two is write things down in the positive daily, or speak them in the positive daily. Now, I like journaling, but for the ease of time with kids and everything, and now that we're a blended family, life does get busy. what I tend to do is I have I have written on my bathroom mirror, and I've done this before, and it was written there when I was declaring to become a best-selling author in 2019. It was written there when I was waiting for Mr. Amazing, my now husband, to come into my life. That was written on there too. It was written about being worthy of a good person. But all of these things, I would just read them on my mirror and speak them out loud daily. So that's my second one, is make it a daily practice. And that's what I mean about the frequency. So that faith frequency is the frequency of doing it over and over and over and over and over again. The frequency of your faith will defeat the fallacy of the fear. Okay, so just if you want, you can type that in the chat. The frequency of the faith will defeat the fallacy of the fear, because the fears are often lies, right? They tend to be not real. They need to be challenged, and they're pretty weak and they don't last. But generally, anytime you are going for growth or you're going for that next level, that same little voice is going to pop up in your head and tell you that you're too old, or you're too this, or you're too that, or you're too something, and basically you're not worthy. And it is a lie. Trust me, it's a lie. The last one that I want to give you is the being kind to yourself. So start with the easiest things and work up. So whether it's a business plan that you're working on, or whether it's your own self-confidence in terms of how you're showing up in life, if it's I am learning how to start a business, start there. And then it might be I am learning how to make money. I am making money. I am making a difference, so that you get bigger and bigger, so that you don't feel as, and that's the important part about the belief, is make it believable. Keep practicing it until it becomes believable, and then it becomes real. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'd love to know what's an I am statement that you would love to put out there. Feel free to type it in the comments. And if you need more help on behaving bravely, I'll drop a link to my program below. It's got some of my favorite little affirmations to say and to speak over yourself in there, as well as how to conquer your fears and how to address all of that. So feel free to look at that. But in the meantime, if you're not ready for any of those things, that's totally cool. I would love it if you hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already, so that I can reach more women who are looking to bravely step up or start over in business and life. My name's Val Lockerbie, and I will see you in next week's video when the kids are back at school, so that I won't be late like I was this week. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.